Contact statistics, number of contacts, and names of the Plejaren and members of their federation by Billy Edward A. Meyer.
B-E-A-M. Billy Edward A. Meyer was born on February 3, 1937, in Niederflachs, 1253, 8100 Bulach, ZH, Switzerland. From the very beginning, he was not only under the care of his parents, but also of the Plejaren Svath from the Ankar universe, or configuration of time. Asket from the Dal universe then entered his life in 1953, after which Simyase from the Ankar universe of the celestial body of the Plejaren, Era, continued the contact in 1975, as did her sister Pleia and her father Ptah, who was then followed by Quetzal and many others. First contacts with extraterrestrials from the Plejaren thus took place with Svath of Era Plejaren, namely from 1942 to 1953, although Svath was already taking care of Edouard from his birth and allowed him to recover when he, not yet 6 months old, was terminally ill with severe pneumonia, and the doctor told that he would not live to see the morning. Further contacts then took place officially from 1953 to 1964 and unofficially until 1975 with Asket, the person originating from the Dal universe, after which contacts with Simyase and other persons originating from the Ankar universe began on January 28, 1975.
Beginning of the Plejaren contacts at the beginning of the 1940s in Niederflachs, 1253, 8180 Bulach Canton, Zurich, Switzerland.
Since Monday, January 28, 1975, until Saturday, July 29, 2023, there have been 2,376 purely mission-related and personal, as well as 1,324 telepathic contacts with extraterrestrials from the Plejarens in the Ankar universe, and from their Federation members as well as Asker and Nera from the Dial universe, the twin creation of our creation, which is simply called the universe by the human beings of Earth, but of which the creation comprises as many as 7, which exist in the space of the creation, but have other dimensions and are in that way separated from each other in the same space. The contacts with the persons from the planet Era of the Plejaren and the Federation, etc., remain continuing, namely for as long as Billy is still here. There are written reports of all contacts, in as far as they are not solely personal ones. In summary, in 2023, 20 blocks of around 500 pages each, some of which contain important, valuable contemporary documents, newspaper clippings and pictures, etc., as well as a lot of evidence regarding predictions and events that have proven truthful, been fulfilled, etc. In addition to the very numerous private visits, during which many problems are discussed exclusively and only private conversations are held, purely mission-related official contact reports contain much of the creation energy teachings and world events in general. What was still possible from the mid-1970s to the end of the 1980s, namely, that the Plejaren flying apparatuses could often be observed and photographed, especially by members of the Phi Gu, but also by persons who were not involved with the Phi Gu, changed quickly, that is to say abruptly, to the no longer being able to observe them. This occurred due to the fact that by antagonists and other adversaries and enviers, etc., by means of lies, cheating, insults, and maliciously film, photo, and slide forgeries, even from the own family, were provided and spread worldwide. The Plejaren have nothing to do with UFOs, which have been observed again and again all over the world since time immemorial and also today, but from which the Plejaren have kept their distance since time immemorial and are very concerned about not to be seen, located or contacted by these strangers, as they are called by the Plejaren. The Plejaren are therefore very strictly concerned about never somehow coming into contact with these strangers, or also just being confused with them. These strangers come from the cosmos known to the human beings of Earth, and from planets and systems known to earthly astronomers, and therefore belong to our space-time configuration of our universe. The Plejaren and their Federation members are human beings with physical bodies and look extremely similar to Earth humans. While certain anatomical differences only apply to non-Plejaren persons or Federation members, who are usually members of the Federation, which came into being through the initiative of the Plejaren. On average, the Plejaren live to be around 1100 years old, although many die at a younger age, while others live to be older. The Plejaren home planet is, as already mentioned, Era, a planet slightly smaller than Earth and comprising a population of around 530 million human beings, while the population of the very far-reaching entire Federation, which spans thousands of light years, comprises a population of around 120,000 millions. The Plejaren stars are not identical to the Pleiades we know, but on the one hand they exist in a different space-time configuration, different dimension, that is to say in a different universe of our creation, but with a different time dimension. On the other hand, the Plejaren are around 115 light-years further away in their dimension than the Pleiades stars visible from Earth, but in a completely different space-time configuration from which this must first be broken through to reach our space-time configuration and then Earth. In terms of consciousness, erroneously, spiritually, and technology, the Plejaren are very far ahead of the human beings of Earth and are therefore further developed. In ancient times, as in general, there were only very few contacts between the Plejaren and human beings of Earth, and even fewer connections, from which then also lines of Plejaren, human beings of Earth developed, but these became extinct again, already thousands of years ago. The extremely few common ancestors went separate ways of development, etc. Consequently, the few died out in the course of the millennia, and consequently, no descendants exist on Earth today whose earliest ancestors would show a Plejaren connection. As of Thursday, August 3rd, 2023, there are, as already mentioned, 20 Pleiadian-Plejaren contact reports, DN A4-sized, thread-bound books, blocks of approx. 500 pages each, and the 21st block is in final preparation for correction. New contact reports are constantly being added, so the 22nd contact block is already being processed. Topics discussed in the contact reports are creation and its creations, origin of the universe, history of the Earth, science, astronomy, spirituality, reincarnation, genetic manipulation, religions of the Earth, human evolution, spiritual teachings, creation energy teachings, interplanetary spaceflight, galactic federation, origin of the extraterrestrials and their visits to Earth, telepathy, overpopulation on Earth, environmental destruction, male-female relationships and health promotion, among many other topics and things worth knowing. Cover-ups of facts by governments, media such as newspapers, magazines, radio and television, by authorities and the military, etc., are uncovered wherever possible, etc.
Hundreds of color slides taken and photos made from them of the beam ships and their tracks etc. can be found reproduced in the photo books.
Photographed were 5 different types of spaceships ranging in size from 3.5 to 7 meters, in which case these ship types were generally piloted. In addition, there are also unmanned beam ships and telemetry discs, surveillance aircraft, as well as large spaceships used to travel through outer space. The objects were photographed individually or in groups, both during the day and also at night. Video and cellophane films 8mm were also made, a lot of material in total, all of which was examined and analyzed very precisely and accurately using several different electron microscopes, laser scanners and computer techniques, edge identification using thermograms, inspection of contours, Z-scale, contour, density and film grain under the electron microscope, microdensitometer, Vidicon tube, digitizer, image processing computer equipment. Many slide recordings and photos made from them were stolen and disappeared somewhere, or were simply destroyed maliciously, as a result of which only a few still exist today or are contained in books as pictures. More than 2,500 original slide recordings were shot, but many of them were subsequently falsified by a specialist under death threats from the black men. Using special modern techniques, however, the authenticity of the slide recordings could nevertheless be proven afterwards, although antagonists, enviés, doubters, liars, religionists and their believers, contact fraudsters and UFO fraudsters, etc., tried, and still do to this day and hour, maliciously and with all kinds of efforts, to present the original slide recordings as fakes.
Various segments of 8mm films out of print.
The films show different flight variants of the beam ships, multiple appearances of flying apparatuses, instantaneous spatial changes caused by the flying objects. Parts of the films were analyzed frame by frame.
For metallic, 1 biological and 9 mineral and crystalline samples were analyzed in the USA by the well-known and experienced Dr. Marcel Vogel and found to be non-terrestrial.
The metal analysis was described very thoroughly in the form of video Beam Ship the Metal. Result: according to the cognitions of Dr. Marcel Vogel, the metal was produced by a cold fusion process, that is to say, by a technique that metallurgy here on the Earth is not yet capable of.
20-minute tape recordings of the buzzing beamship noises without sound shielding.
The tape recordings of the unshielded against sound beamship buzzing noise were made in the presence of several witnesses who heard the deafening noise but could not see the beamship shielded against sight. The loud buzzing noises could still be heard 4 kilometers away, as witnessed by listeners who rushed to the scene. The scientific analysis revealed that the sound of the buzzing noise was made up of many different tones, frequencies, with extremely unusual anomalies and rapid tone frequency changes.
Landing tracks.
Landing tracks are 1 to 3 per flying apparatus, depending on the type of ship. If there are 3 of them, then these are at a 120-degree angle distant to each other. They are circular, and the grass is pressed down in a counterclockwise direction, while the landing tracks are still visible months after their formation if the grass is not mowed away. In some cases, the newly growing grass is even affected.
Strange occurrences.
Energy burns from the spaceship at night, loop about 400 meters long and about 5 meters wide at an altitude of about 700 meters. Witness: Jacobus Bertschinger. Billy, freshly shaved, was away for about 1 hour at a contact. When he came back, he stated that he had now been away with Sim Ya-se for 5 days, which had to be true as he actually had a 5-day-old beard growth, as several Figu members who were there can attest to. Several persons can testify that Billy disappeared without a trace from the middle of a group of persons and reappeared after 2 hours. Many persons can also testify that Billy was sitting at the table in the kitchen, and about 50 meters further on in the shed over there, he used his power of consciousness to move aside a 500-kilogram tiled stove about 150 centimeters in the middle of the road, thus clearing the road for traffic. At the kitchen table, Billy turned a not quite full-liter bottle of Pepsi Cola into good red wine, which everyone could enjoy. Many persons can testify that Billy bent hard 2 and 5 franc pieces between his fingers, as well as teaspoons and forks, in front of everyone's eyes. Bernadette Brand and Silvano Lehmann can testify that Billy left the kitchen through the north exit, but returned to the kitchen through the south door the very next moment. The distance he would have had to have covered around the house is about 45 meters, which would have been impossible. That is to say, even with the fastest running, it would not have been possible in about 2 seconds, the time which the exit from the north side of the house and the re-entry into the kitchen effectively had taken.
Witnesses.
Apart from Billy Edward A. Meyer, his family members, despite their current defamation of the facts and truth, because they could by doing so travel abroad, win money and make themselves world famous, as well as former and current core group members, and more than 130 other strangers could testify to the various events surrounding the Plejaren and their spaceships. Persons and issues surrounding Billy Edward Albert Meyer C. Zeugenbuch, Verlag Figu.
Contact persons of Billy Edward A. Meyer, Pleiadian Plejaren, and those federated with them.
On February 3, 2017, the Plejaren organized a meeting and a small celebration for Billy's 80th birthday on the grounds of Quetzal's land property, at which the entirety of all of the contact persons who made an appearance up to that point were present with the exception of Svarth, who died in 1953.
Received from Christian Frenner, initial translation by Scott Baxter, final corrections by Stefan Zutt, November 9, 2023.